genetically engineering the world's most dangerous animal. The mosquito, the world's deadliest animal. With very few benefits, the mosquito is not only incredibly annoying, but it is a carrier of many diseases, some being potentially fatal. Mosquitoes can cause serious harm, especially in third world countries with warm climates where the mosquitoes are plentiful and the vaccines and medications are scarce. Unfortunately, although the mosquito is so dangerous, there are very few ways to prevent them from spreading these deadly diseases, as there are so many of them and they are so small. Of course, you can use insect repellent, but that isn't available to everyone and is not always effective. A company called Oxitec has figured out a way to genetically modify male mosquitoes in an attempt to eradicate the Aedes aegypti species of mosquito altogether. The Aedes aegypti is the species of mosquito that carries diseases such as dengue, Zika, and yellow fever. It also almost exclusively bites humans and lives in and around residential areas. Oxitec has developed a technology to insert a self-limiting gene into the Aedes aegypti males, which produces a protein called tetracycline-controlled transactivator. This protein then binds onto the self-limiting gene, which produces positive feedback, telling the gene to create even more of the tetracycline-controlled transactivator protein. The high levels of this protein impacts the expression of genes by interfering with the machinery the cells use to control the gene expression. Essential genes are not expressed, and the mosquito dies as a pupae or larvae. With some of Oxitec's products, both males and females die, but sometimes just the females die. The females are the only mosquitoes that bite and therefore able to spread diseases, which is the main concern. However, males are needed to mate with females and have offspring, which can be female, so they still contribute to the problem. The self-limiting gene can be turned off with tetracycline, which helps Oxitec to add the gene to males in the lab and allow them to mate with females in the wild without dying. The gene gets passed down, killing either all offspring or just the female offspring. If the male offspring survive, they carry on the gene to any offspring that they may have, killing the females and passing the gene to the males. The cycle can continue for 10 generations. In addition to these self-limiting genes, Oxitec also adds a marker gene into all their mosquitoes, which helps control and identify them in the wild. The gene expresses a protein called DS-RED2, which is also inherited by all of the offspring of the mosquitoes. It is an effective tool for quality control and production, as well as effective monitoring in the field. Oxitec can then use this data to keep improving their technology. As these markers are directly in the DNA, they are much more effective than the fluorescent dusts or food dyes that are used in other common insect control programs. Oxitec's technology has been tested throughout Brazil. In Waziro, studies showed that a year after the release of Oxitec mosquitoes, mosquito population dropped by more than 90%. Many other successful studies were conducted as well, proving that Oxitec's technology works. So why isn't it being used everywhere? Well, these mosquitoes are considered GMOs, and before being released in places like the USA, need FDA approval. The FDA took many years to look over the technology and ensure that it was safe, and finally decided to conduct an experiment in a small town in Florida. However, Floridians were outraged with these new unnatural mosquitoes, starting many protests. A petition to stop the trials got over 160,000 signatures. The area of Florida that was going to have these mosquitoes released had a dengue outbreak not long before, which is why these GMO mosquitoes could be so beneficial to them. Unfortunately, there are so many prejudices surrounding GMOs that people are quick to judge them without even knowing the details. The plan to test in Florida was halted before it could even start. However beneficial these GMO mosquitoes may be, there are clearly many concerns that come along with them. Firstly, a small number of females are accidentally being genetically modified in the lab and given tetracycline to survive, so they still carry the gene around. The worry with the females being genetically modified is that they bite other animals and people. The modifications are not supposed to be harmful if these mistakes are made, but it makes people nervous that there could be some long-term effects on humans if they are bitten by the female GMO mosquitoes. There have not been long-term tests performed on the impacts of getting bitten by a GMO mosquito, as the technology is fairly new. A second concern that people have is that some species depend on mosquitoes as their food source, such as birds, bats, fish, and frogs. Mosquitoes can also be important pollinators as they mostly feed on plant nectar. These things could have major impacts further up or down the food chain. However,
Mosquito
many different
population
species
has
of
been
mosquitoes are
reduced.
not being
First
targeted
attempt
by the
isn't always
technology,
easy.
as they don't spread
The hungry
diseases,
mosquito moves her
and these holes can
needle-like...
be quickly filled by other insects. The final main concern is not just with these mosquitoes, but with GMOs themselves. People seem to think that GMO immediately means bad, but often this just isn't the case. To continue the expansion of this life-saving technology, the negative attitude towards all GMOs needs to be changed. Of course, not all GMOs are good, and not all GMOs are bad either. Genetic technology is extremely beneficial in many ways, even beyond the mosquito technology.